in so many ways, and neo-libbed, I guess. It's, as you say, there's not that much difference. And the big neocon story this week was the new declassified Guantanamo court filings showing what basically I scooped the whole media on about more than a decade ago, that these 9/11 quote unquote hijackers, rather patsies would be the correct term, were in fact CIA agents. And now RT is hyping this, but this new information comes from Don Canestraro, who was a DEA veteran who was involved in these court filings, and his documents make it clear that the CIA deliberately obstructed official investigations in order to conceal its quote-unquote penetration of al-Qaeda. Well, penetration, I would say rather that the CIA pretty much owned the 9/11 wing of al-Qaeda as its own proprietary subsidiary through this guy, Omar al-Bayoumi. Now, this is the guy who's the Zionist-controlled part of the media, whether alternative, left or right or mainstream, has tried to say, well, this guy, he may have been a Saudi intelligence handler of these two hijacker patsies. Actually, and these are the two patsies, right? Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar. Well, their handler, the guy who brought them to America kind of and set them up and handled them, Omar al-Bayoumi, he was working for, the CIA. And that's what this new story tells us. And I broke this story back in 2016. I guess that wasn't quite a decade ago, when I had his nephew on my show describing how the entire extended family knew the whole time that Uncle Omar was working for the CIA, and specifically part of CIA that's very friendly with the Mossad. So any journalist could have gone and talked to Ihab Bayoumi, could have talked to a dozen other relatives of Omar al-Bayoumi, all of whom knew what was going on. Apparently the operational secrecy here wasn't real tight. And they could have broken the story of the century. Why won't the mainstream media do this? Why do they leave it to people like me? Don't they want Pulitzer Prizes, Mike, or what's going on here?
Well, this brings us back to Robert Kennedy Jr. 1 week, I think it was 1 week, a month, whatever, after the Kennedy assassination, Harry Truman announced publicly that the CIA was a rogue operation and he regretted bringing it into existence. Well, that's the fundamental issue here, isn't it? Are we being ruled in the wake of a coup d'etat by a rogue operation that is answerable to no one in the American government or the American population? That's so once again, we have this window into this bigger world. It's like through the looking glass. This is a one more looking glass. 9/11, Kennedy assassination. This counter narrative, which is the official narrative, has certain pillars, and this is one of them. And once you get behind them, you begin to see that there's another explanation that's much more plausible, that's going to have to hold these people accountable for what they're doing.
Well, part of the official narrative here is that these hijacker patsies were supposedly radical Islamists, but none of them were. Least of all these guys, Khalid al-Midhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, they had nothing to do with any sort of jihadi radical Islam or anything like that. They wanted to be airline pilots. They were fun-loving young guys, like most of these alleged hijackers or patsies. And according to Ihab Bayoumi, his best guess is that these guys, maybe with new faces and fingerprints and names and witness protection, are flying commercial airliners today. That's what they wanted to do, and the CIA helped them do it. And so this whole thing was run by CIA. Omar al-Bayoumi was a CIA handler. He wasn't working for Saudi intelligence, for God's sake. At that time, much of Saudi intelligence was run by the U.S. anyway. And so this is coming out in hard documentation. I wonder if people like Matt Taibbi, who care about hard documentation, are going to change their tune about 9/11 when they discover that Kevin Barrett and Ihab Bayoumi were right back in 2016. But I'm not going to hold my breath before people